The courtroom echoed with tension as Officer Jake Rayner stood before the bench, his decorated K-9 partner, Shadow, sitting quietly at his side. Jake's voice trembled, not from fear, but from heartbreak as he made a desperate plea no officer ever expected to make. "Please, don't retire him. Not like this. He's not just a dog, he saved my life more than once. He deserves better." The judge, an older man known for his cold efficiency and disdain for sentiment, chuckled under his breath. "Officer, you're wasting our time. It's just protocol. He's injured and can't serve. Let's move on." But the moment Shadow stirred, dragging his injured leg across the polished floor, something happened. Something no one, least of all the judge, expected. And in that instant, the courtroom was frozen in silence. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the loyalty of animals, please take a second to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. Every click helps us tell more stories that truly matter. Jake Rayner had served on the force for over 12 years. He wasn't the kind of man who sought attention. Tall, quietly intense, with eyes that had seen too much, he found peace only on patrol with Shadow, a jet-black German shepherd who was more than just a police dog, he was Jake's heart. Shadow had been with him through the darkest nights, through gunfire, hostage rescues, missing children, and the death of Jake's wife. In those moments when grief had nearly swallowed him, Shadow had simply lain beside him, eyes full of knowing. No words needed. Just presence. Just love. They were a unit. Inseparable. Until that day. A routine drug bust had gone south. Jake and Shadow entered a warehouse where a tip had led them. Shadow, trained to sense danger, barked before Jake even noticed the glint of a weapon from the shadows. The gunfire exploded before Jake could react. But Shadow did. Without hesitation, he lunged at the shooter, taking a bullet to the leg in the process. Jake was hit in the shoulder. It was a miracle they both survived. But Shadow's injury left his hind leg partially paralyzed. The department ruled he was no longer fit for duty. The policy was cold, injured dogs were retired, often sent to shelters or new homes unless deemed too aggressive, in which case they were euthanized quietly. And that, Jake learned, was the decision being made. Shadow was loyal, yes. But with a protective aggression rating too high for civilian adoption, he was deemed a risk. Jake begged to adopt him, but red tape and department liability concerns stood in the way. That's how Jake found himself in court, asking for a chance to save his partner's life. The courtroom was sparsely filled that morning. A few reporters. A couple of officers in the back. A single elderly woman knitting quietly, waiting for her own case. Jake's left arm was still in a sling. Shadow sat beside him, breathing slow, obedient, and calm. His injured leg was wrapped, his eyes watchful, aware. The judge, a man named Conrad Mallory, was known for never bending the rules. To him, every case was black or white. No room for sentiment. "Officer Rayner," he said, eyes narrow, "I'm sure your service has been honorable. But this is not a rescue mission. It's a matter of protocol and public safety." Jake stood straighter. "Your Honor, I'm not asking for a favor. I'm asking for justice. For loyalty. For everything this dog has done, he deserves a dignified life. He saved children, stopped killers. And me. I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for him." The judge smirked and turned to the file on his bench. "Your plea is noted. But this is a working dog, not a family pet. And the law is clear." Before he could finish, Shadow, as if sensing the weight of what was being said, rose slowly and limped forward. The courtroom stilled. Every eye turned. No one had commanded him. He moved on his own. Dragging his bad leg, he made his way to the judge's bench, and, with slow dignity, sat before the man who held his fate. Shadow looked up, those deep brown eyes filled with something no report could document. Loyalty. Dignity. Understanding. And for a long, heavy moment, Judge Mallory said nothing. Shadow didn't growl. He didn't bark. He simply held that gaze, as if asking, "Do I deserve to die because I can't serve anymore?" The courtroom was frozen in silence. One of the reporters sniffled. The elderly woman had stopped knitting and was holding her hands to her mouth. And the judge, known for never faltering, swallowed hard, his lips parting slightly as he looked away from the dog's eyes and down at the file again. Then up again. "Is he always this composed?" the judge asked, but his tone had shifted. No longer cold. No longer dismissive. Jake nodded, tears now welling. "Always. Even when he was bleeding out beside me." Judge Mallory closed the file slowly. "This court will reconvene in 10 minutes. I need to consider the full picture." Those 10 minutes felt like eternity. Jake sat with Shadow, his hand on the dog's back. A reporter came forward and crouched beside them. "Can I take a photo?" she asked gently. Jake nodded. She snapped the picture, Shadow looking up at him, their silhouettes perfectly framed by the morning light filtering through the tall courtroom windows. When court resumed, Judge Mallory didn't return to his bench with the same brisk pace. He moved slower. Thoughtful. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and spoke without preamble. "This court has reconsidered the matter. Officer Rayner, due to your exemplary service and the unique bond presented between you and your canine partner, this court grants your request to adopt Shadow permanently. The department's concerns regarding liability are overruled on the grounds of precedent, discretion, and exceptional circumstance." Case closed. The room erupted in a collective gasp, followed by quiet applause. Jake lowered his head, overcome. Shadow wagged his tail once, just once, and leaned into his partner. That photograph would go viral within 48 hours. Headlines read, "Dog silences courtroom with a look." People across the country rallied, demanding better retirement care for service animals. Donations flooded in. Policies began to shift. And Jake? He retired a year later, using his settlement to buy a small ranch outside the city. There, Shadow had acres to roam, children to greet, and a warm bed every night beside the only man he ever truly trusted. Sometimes, in the evening light, Jake would sit on the porch, arm around the dog who saved his life in every sense. "You did it, buddy," he'd whisper. "You made them see." And Shadow, even with that limp, would lift his head high, still a hero. Always. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Pawsitive Tales, and share it with someone who believes in the power of love and loyalty. Your support helps us share real stories that can change lives, both human and animal. Before you go, we'd love to know, have you ever had an animal change your life? Share your story in the comments, we read every single one.